Who gets the credit for coming up with the Rock and Roll Express tag team concept, and who put you and Robert together? Because Jimmy Hart and Jerry Lawler have both claimed
Okay, they
responsibility.
both did it, and it was great. And at the same time, this is what all this happened. To make this short, Steve Kerr and Stan Lane was a big baby faces in Memphis. Jerry Lawler, they would have, they hated Jerry Lawler, and Jerry Lawler was the top person in Memphis, and they kept trying to do it, and they're going like this. So Jerry Lawler was going to go opposition in Memphis. So I was working with Ken Lucas in San Antonio, Texas. And then Lawler come down here. He told me what he wanted to do. I want to bring you back to Memphis and put you and Robert Gibson together as a tag team. And do this. And Mid Kenny's things were loosening up in Texas. They was finishing up. So I was looking to go home anyway. I just had my first son in San Antonio, Texas, and my grandmother and I'm my mother, all this, but I just wanted to come back home. So we get there, and he was trying to get us to come up with some ideas and everything. So we look at some rock and roll books. So here you go. You got R&R, Ricky Robert, R&R Rolls Royce, R&R Rock and Roll. So, and we were kind of dressing up different, wearing the spandex and that stuff. So Jerry Lawler put us together, but we're sitting around. We're fixing to go on TV, dude, and we ain't got a name yet. So Jimmy Hart goes, "What about the Rock and Roll Express?" And Jerry Lawler looked at him and goes, and pointed his finger and says, "That's the worst name I ever heard, but we got to have something. We're going to go with it." All right. And Lawler tells me all the time, he said, "Boy, I wish I would have patented that name." But it was not just one. Jerry Lawler put us together, but Jimmy Hart gave us the name. Jimmy Hart and the Gentries. He's a rock and roller too. So it was both of them. It wasn't just one. Lawler put us together because he was the booker, and Jimmy Hart was there with us, and when we was trying to figure all this out, and he come up with a name.
Who came up with all the bandanas around the wrists and the legs?
Because we didn't have a gimmick, and I stopped, and I'm looking through some, rock and roll magazines, David Lee Roth, Van Halen, and all, and I'm looking at the ideas. And we was looking at something different, and I kind of liked that. Me and Robert both did. But that day, our first day that we started the Rock and Roll Express, we were in Memphis, and they had a flea market out back in the parking lot, way back here. And me, Robert, and Lawler walked over there, and then we seen that. We had the spandex, we tied the bandanas on us. We bought them at the flea market, feathers. All kinds of stuff. I never forget the first time we come out, because they just said a new tag team is coming in, and then the Rock and Roll Express, and we hit the place, and me and Robert had the greatest chemistry in the world in the ring. And a guy told us after the show, he says, he goes, "I didn't know if y'all was Indians or gypsies." I thought it was funny as heck. Man, what a run we had too. I mean, it's the greatest, the Rock and Roll Express. It was, especially in the 80s. If you're a wrestler out there in business, or you're a wrestler right now, I don't care. I mean, nowadays they spend billions of dollars to promote shows and stuff, but we just had TV in ourselves, and to automatically draw people. I mean, when Robert and I went to the carry, even like in Louisiana, instead of the small high school gyms, we went to the big arenas because it wouldn't hold enough. And when the big arenas wasn't big enough, we had to go outside on football fields, all the way to the Superdome in New Orleans. And then the same thing in Charlotte. I remember, my son just told me this other day. He was at the Charlotte Coliseum, the Owen back in the day, and the guy wanted me to work on the show there, and I told him no. I says, because I have never worked in that building when it didn't sell out. and I didn't want to go back there and not see it sold out. And I'm serious. It's just the way the business was. What a time in our life to be a part of that wrestling time. I guess the guys in the 80s were thinking about the 60s or their 50s. The older guys. But here I am in 2001 thinking about it's just a whole different scenario in our business.
I am interested to know your opinion on the sort of Rock and Roll Express tag team rip-offs that came off afterwards, because I was thinking there was the Midnight Rockers with Sean and Jannetty, the Rock and Roll RPMs. There was quite a few of them. Who were did you take it as well, hang on, you're completely stealing our gimmick and you're taking money off our table, or you take it completely as a compliment?
They didn't take no money off my table. Well, but see, understand me, Shawn Michaels. I met Shawn years ago. He's from San Antonio, Texas, and that's where that's where I really got my first break with Ken. And Shawn was a fan of ours. And then when Shawn first broke into the business in 1984, I believe, that was his first territory he ever went to. Matter of fact, yeah, his first match. He was, he big fan, and I like Shawn. But to me, when they became the Midnight Rockers, they took the Rock and Roll Express, and I took it as a compliment. Do you hear what I'm saying? Because they took our gimmick, and they had a pretty good little run with it, but they didn't do nothing like we did. And it's not that, because we had the greatest people in the world to work with. We didn't have egos to deal with. We had the Midnight Express. We had Ivan Koloff, Crusher Khrushchev. We had the Four Horsemen that all we was interested in was making money. And at that time it was territories. To have the greatest territory of ever, and Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA. I mean, it was so much. And Dusty did all this. He was the booker. He put it all together. It was the greatest time in my life.